It's a farm journey for August 2nd, 2019.
Well, welcome. I didn't see you there. Welcome to Eagle Isle Farm and the Serene Disciple Project. As you can see, we're in the kitchen this evening. It's about, let's see, 7:20 on a beautiful summer evening. Didn't quite make 100 today. And so today, or this evening rather, I want to make some bread. Kay is away on a trip, and so I can have all of the warm bread to myself. That's a treat. Now, if you'll remember, I talked about the 4 areas that represented the areas that I found life in my post-crash and burn world. And that was the deck, or the dock, representing personal devotion, the shop representing creative work, which were both pretty solitary, working by myself. And the other 2 are done more in company, though I'm here by myself tonight. And that was the kitchen, where we are, representing radical hospitality, and the porch, representing genuine, generous friendship and spiritual conversation. And so tonight, I bring you the kitchen. So why don't we make some bread? And so I've already got 3 cups of warm water, supposed to be 110. It's probably in the neighborhood of 110. And now I've put 5 cups of bread flour in here. And we have just a couple more things to go. We're going to start with 1/3 of a cup of honey, and this is from our hives. 2 packets of yeast. And as the yeast goes down into the water and finds the honey, even now you can begin to smell the life. We are going to leave this for a little while to live. Back in my early 40s, when I crashed and burned, it was rough. It was a rough time. And if you haven't seen the video, Let's Begin with a Story, or Beginning with a Story, something like that, I would suggest turning this one off now and going and watching that one, because it'll make this one make a lot more sense. But during that time, when I was not pastoring the church that I had been pastoring up to that point, I was on a bit of a hiatus. I was able to be at home, and it would have been a very isolating thing. It would not have been a good thing to be so isolated. And I think the community that I was part of, as they asked me to stay on as their pastor, as they rallied around me and supported me and healed me, part of that healing, part of that support was that they just wouldn't leave me alone. And so my house at the time in Southwest Austin became something of a grand central station, and particularly the kitchen. And so many times there would be people who were part of our community, people who had become part of our family, who would gather, not in this kitchen, but not in a dissimilar kitchen. And since I love to cook, I would cook. And since I love to make bread, I would make bread. And so for hours and hours and days, I would stand at the counters and at the island in that kitchen, and I would cook. And I would talk to the people across the island or across the counter. And there would be laughter, there would be serious conversation, there would be stories. And in the context of that joyful, messy, noisy kitchen, I found life. And I found that, at least for me, and I suspect maybe for many other people, maybe for you, that when you are not doing so well, when I am not doing so well, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, that my tendency is to isolate myself, to think that nobody else has problems like I'm having, and so what I need to do is just pull in, be by myself, sort things out, and then when I have it all figured out, like everybody else has it all figured out, then I can become a public person again. But I would like to suggest to you that maybe that's not a very good strategy. My suggestion is that maybe life is found in our community. Now, community can mean different things to you than it does to me. But I found then, and I find now here in this kitchen, that when I gather with friends or with people that I don't know so well, who may become friends, that in that chatter, in that living of life together, that I am healed. I was healed profoundly then, and I continue to be healed now. I spent a great deal of my life trying to figure out from the perspective of a church staff member or a senior pastor, how do I get people to come into community in the context of church events? And I had some success at that. I will say that any success I had at that, or most of the successes that I had in drawing people together in the church community, also involved a kitchen, also involved cooking, even if it was just boiled hot dogs. If people came together and there was food present and there was preparation of food going on, something happens, something spiritually magical happens, and barriers come down. And so I found that in a church setting. But I have to say, as much of my life as I have devoted to church community, I have never created in a church setting the sort of community that just spontaneously happens if I intentionally gather people in this kitchen. And did you notice the use of those two words? You would think that would be opposites. If I intentionally gather people in this kitchen, life seems to spontaneously happen. Healing seems to spontaneously happen. Let's see what we have here. Well, you can see that it's gotten lighter. There's gas in it. So let's do a few things. Let's add some more honey. Let's add a little butter because, you know, butter. And then, just because we can, I happen to remember that I had some lavender blossoms in the pantry. So let's add just a few pinches of lavender blossom. There we go. This is still battery, is that a word? Not an electrical thing. Batter-like enough to incorporate some other stuff in it. And so now we'll let the yeast eat some more, and we will let this roughly double in size. And now it's time to knead this dough. Now this may be my favorite part. I decided not to put musical background behind it so that you could hear the subtle sounds, the crinkle of the bag, the sound of the kneading. So how do you know when it's done being kneaded? Well, here's where science gives way to art, or maybe artisanship. As you knead the dough, you can feel that it changes in very subtle ways
over time as you bend it and then move it forward. You're working more flour into it and increasing the elasticity, and you just have to feel. Over time, you make enough loaves, you begin to feel what well-kneaded dough feels like. Maybe that's a little bit like spirituality. Maybe it's a little bit like spiritual conversation and hospitality. There's no way to tell you in a book how to have a conversation with someone, how to know when to press forward or pull back. With enough time, enough experience, you just know. And so there's the art, the artisanship of hospitality, depicted in the making of bread. Now let's divide this in two, put it in the loaf pans, let it rise a little longer, and then we'll pop it in the oven. It's finished. I wish you could smell this. Smell of fresh, hot bread, along with the smell of honey and just a little bit of lavender. This is good stuff. I've never known anybody who didn't like the smell of fresh bread. Probably should have let it set a little longer, but who can let it set a little longer? Let's put some nice Irish butter on it. Melts right onto it. And now, a little of our honey. All right, here we go. That's a keeper. Whole wheat, honey, lavender bread. That's good. Wish you were here. In fact, why don't you come on over? You can sit down and I'll bake you a fresh loaf and we could share this together. Hospitality, radical hospitality. It's really something to it. I recommend it. We'll see you next time. Well, I think that's enough for today. As always, if you like this video, click that like button, share this on your social media, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and consider becoming a Patreon supporter. Hey, have you guys seen Bean? It's starting to get dark. Wonder if he went this way.